Welcome back to my fourth video, students. I am Subramanya, lecturer in Biology.Aalpha, College.K.R.Nagar.Myore district. And in the previous class, I was discussing asexual reproduction, and I gave you the definition of the asexual reproduction. And I think I have made you to understand what's the meaning of asexual reproduction in my previous class. And we have studied asexual reproduction by the process of cell division, by the process of budding, and by the process of spore formation. Students, in this class, I am going to discuss asexual reproduction in plants. So I think you need to have some basic information regarding to the structure of the plant. Already I have discussed that in my second video, but still I need to correlate the asexual reproduction in plants with the structure of the plant. I mean the structures which are involved in asexual reproduction in plants to the structure of the plant. So I think I need to recap the information yet again in this class. Students, this is the structure of the plant. The plant has got the part what we call as a root. The root is present inside the soil, and anything which grows in the soil, we simply refer that as a subterranean. Subterranean. Here the root is subterranean, and the remaining part of the plant which is growing above the soil, we consider that as a aerial part. And all these words are important, and you need to understand why they are referred so, and what is the meaning of the aerial, what is the meaning of the subterranean. So because I am giving you the basic idea of these words in the beginning itself. So subterranean and the aerial, okay, and how this plant develops basically. So let me explain like this. You know, the angiospermic plant, it develops basically from the seed. The seed has got the embryo, and this is the embryonal axis. The embryonal axis has got 2 points. The upper point is plumule, and the basal point is a radicle. The embryonal axis, the upper tip is plumule, and the basal tip is the radicle. And you know, the students, the radicle gives rise to root, which is a subterranean. Okay, and then the upper part plumule gives rise to all the parts which are present above the soil, that is the aerial part, so which we collectively call as a shoot, root and shoot. Okay, so that's how the plant develops. So after this, I want to give you another one information, and now it is very clear for you that the root develops from a radical part, and shoot develops from the plumule part of the embryo, students. Okay, and another information for you is that, as I told you, that the root being present in the soil, developing from the radical part of the embryo, is the usual thing which happens at the time of embryonic development of the body of a plant. But sometime what happens? The root may also develop from the aerial part of the plant body. So what is this aerial part of the plant body, and what are all the parts of this aerial part of the plant body? Something which we need to know basically. Okay, so the aerial part is mainly made up of the stem, and stem has got the part what we call as a node. Okay, something which I am marking by using red color chalk paste is a node. This is node. Okay, this is another node, right? And in between two nodes, the region, this particular part, we call this as a internode. I am very much sure that you all know this, but still for my convenience and make you to understand immediately, when I just mention that particular part of the plant body which helps in the reproduction, I am telling you all these, students. Okay, nodes, and in between two nodes there is a presence of internode. These type of nodes may be there, and many internodes may be there in a stem. Students, and the node is the particular region in a body of a plant where leaves are born. It is very much clear for you. You see where the leaves are born, and here also there are leaves. Node is correlated with the leaf, and at the same time, in between the leaf and the stem, this is the stem and this is the leaf, and in between the two you can see there is a presence of the bud, that is axillary bud. What is it? It is axillary bud. Okay, I write it here. Axillary bud. Okay, so above the ground, the aerial part of the body of a plant, The shoot has got nodes and internodes in its stem. Nodal region bears leaves, and in between the leaf and the stem there is a presence of the axillary bud. Right? And students, this plant, the root shoot, after certain level of development and maturity gives rise to flower. So let me just write a flower here. One of the axillary bud gives rise to flower. And what is flower? What is flower? Flower is a sexually reproducing organ of a body of a plant. Flower produces fruit. Fruit bears seeds, and seed has embryo, and embryo gives rise to plant. You have studied it now. Just I told you the way how the embryo gives rise to a plant. Radicle and plumule. So the flower is the part which helps the plant in sexual reproduction. So because when we consider a plant as a whole, this particular part, the flower, is considered as a sexual part. This should be very clear for you. This is sexual part of the plant body. And remaining all parts, root, stem, axillary bud, leaves, remaining all parts are simply referred as vegetative parts. Okay? I put box here, vegetative parts. Vegetative parts. Okay, students, did you understand what is the meaning of sexual part? Sexual part is the part which helps the plant to reproduce sexually, and it is a flower. And what are vegetative parts? The vegetative parts are the parts which includes all the other parts other than flower. Okay, root, stem, I am repeating, leaf, axillary buds and so on. So students, why have I given all this information for you? In spite of you having studied it in your earlier classes, I require this information immediately for me to correlate something, the asexual reproduction in plants. So during asexual reproduction in plants, these vegetative parts helps in reproduction. Okay, and these vegetative parts helping in continuation of generation, that is reproduction, or that is a propagation. We use a word propagation in particular. Okay, so this vegetative parts helps in a propagation, continuation of generation. So asexual reproduction in plants is also called as vegetative propagation. Plant reproducing from the parts of the plant other than the flower. Plant reproducing from the parts of the plant other than the flower, vegetative parts, the propagation, reproduction by the vegetative parts, we call that as a vegetative propagation. Very specific. Okay, vegetative propagation. So asexual reproduction in plants is also called as vegetative propagation. Why asexual reproduction in plants is called as a vegetative propagation? Very simple. Asexual reproduction in plants occurs through the vegetative parts of the plant body. So vegetative propagation. And another one important thing for you students here. You see these vegetative parts, again root, stem, axillary buds, leaves, they simply cannot reproduce as such. They will undergo certain type of modifications which will help them out to reproduce easily, directly, conveniently. So these modified vegetative parts of a plant helping in asexual reproduction, helping in vegetative propagation, they are simply referred as vegetative propagules. Vegetative propagules. Okay. So what are vegetative propagules? Vegetative propagules are asexually reproducing vegetative parts of a body of a plant. What are vegetative propagules? Vegetative propagules are asexually reproducing vegetative parts of a body of a plant. So in your book, they have given you certain examples of vegetative propagules, and they have given you some technical terms based upon which they are going to ask you questions. You shall be familiar with this. So all this background information, students. So what are these vegetative propagules which they have taken in your textbook? And are these vegetative propagules a modified root, a modified stem, a modified axillary bud, or modified leaf? Yes, we are going to consider all of them and we are going to make a study. So I will rub this. You remember the vegetative propagules, why asexual reproduction is called a vegetative propagation, and so on, students. Okay, it is clear for you. What is that sexual part, flower, and all the remaining part, vegetative part? It's clear for you. Nodal region where leaves arises, internodal region, the point, the region of the stem between the two nodes, internode. It's all very much important to make you understand. Okay, so I will wipe off. You have all these in your mind, right? So alongside all this information what I have given to you, students, I want to add some more information to make things much convenient and easy for you to understand. Students, I told you, usually the root develops, grows inside the soil, and shoot is something which grows above the soil. I am repeating the same thing, but sometime in certain unique cases what may happen? The stem may remain inside the soil. So the basal part of the stem, usually you see this is the soil part, right? This is the soil part. The basal part of the stem, this is the stem. The basal part of the stem may remain inside the soil. Why is this? I'll tell you. And you may ask me a question, sir, if it is present inside the soil, a basal part of the stem, if it is present inside the soil, how come you determine? How come you specify that as it is a root? Why can't we just simply assume that as it to be a root, it to be a, I mean, how come you specify that it to be a stem? The basal part of the stem, it is remaining inside the soil, and naturally we will be under confusion that, and why can't we assume that as because it is present inside the soil, as it is a root? How can we understand? How can we convince ourselves as it is a stem? That is the question from your side. Yes, it's a valid question. Simply as because it is present inside the soil, we cannot always assume it as a root. What's the characteristic feature of a stem, students? Stem is something which always bears nodes and internodes, and root will never have nodes and internodes. So I am telling you here, the basal part of the stem is remaining inside the soil, and how I can consider that as a stem? As because if I carefully analyze the structure of the stem, I can notice the presence of nodes and internodes. And also this basal part of the stem may produce some lateral branches like this. So even these lateral branches will have nodal region and internodal region, students. And these lateral underground branches of the stem may undergo certain kind of modification. They may enlarge, they may store food. A parenchyma cells which are involved in storing the food may be produced in larger number, and as because of this, they may change their structure like this. You see, they may branch like this, they may become thick, okay, and you can see node and internode like this. This thick branched horizontally growing, it is not vertically growing, this branch thick horizontally growing underground stem, it is simply referred as a rhizome. In your textbook, they have taken example of the rhizome. Rhizome is a modified underground horizontally growing fleshy stem. I take out this rhizome, and this rhizome may eventually detach from the parental plant like this, and it may give rise to a new plant. Okay, so it is like this. You see, this is the rhizome. Definitely you will have seen this, you will have eaten this even. Okay, what is this? In Kannada we call this as a shunti. In English it is nothing but ginger. It is ginger, students. The ginger is an example for rhizome. It's an underground modified stem. Ginger is an example for rhizome, and it's an underground modified stem. Example from your textbook. Okay, and this rhizome. underground modified stem may produce roots at its nodal region like this. It may produce roots at its nodal region. Roots over the stem. What did I say in the beginning itself? Root will develop from radical part of the plant body. I mean radical part of the embryo. A normal place, a usual place, a technically correct place where root arises is the radical. But your root is arising from the nodal point, an uncharacteristic place, an unusual place in a plant body. Certain time these type of things happens in plant. So these are structures, the structures of a plant body arising from unusual parts, not from their regular parts. We refer them as adventitious structures. Okay, so here these are adventitious roots. I write it here. Adventitious root. What are these roots? The roots arising from the nodal region, they are adventitious roots. And sometimes even the axillary bud. You see, the axillary bud is the structure which arises in the point which we consider as an axis between the stem and the leaf. This point axillary bud, but the bud may arise from the leaf sometime like this. Okay, the bud is arising from the leaf. So what is it? It's an adventitious bud. Adventitious. Did you understand the meaning of adventitious? We use the word adventitious to refer something which arises from unusual part of the plant body. So it's adventitious roots arises from the underground stem. It produces the shoot toward the upper side like this, and it will give rise to an independent plant. The propagation, reproduction, the reproduction without the involvement of the flower is taking place with the help of the vegetative part of the plant body, and that vegetative structure, a modified structure which is helping in reproduction, we call that as a rhizome. In your examination, name the vegetative propagule with the help of which ginger reproduces. What is your answer? I repeat the question. Name the vegetative propagule with the help of which ginger reproduces. What is your answer? Rhizome. Rhizome. Name the rhizome, and I give you another one question. Name the plant. Give example to a plant which reproduces asexually with the help of rhizome. Name the plant, give example to a plant which reproduces asexually with the help of rhizome. What is your answer? Ginger. Ginger is the example. Students, in your textbook they have given another one example. I will wipe this off. They have given another one example along with ginger, that is banana. Okay, I am exclusively considering those examples given in your textbook. It is very important. Listening to teacher should be like reading your textbook or the notes. As well, you shall be able to understand the concept. That's very much clear. Let us go to next example. Before going to mention the example or that particular vegetative propagule, I will show the kind of modification, and so that you shall be able to guess as what it is. Right? So you see, this is the ginger. It's a typical plant. Sometime what may happens, this lateral branch, underground stem may enlarge in such a way, like this. Underground, it has stored a large amount of food, and of course you cannot see the nodal and internodal region. Nodal and internodal parts here, simply it's an enlarged, somewhat irregularly oval or spherical structure. Eventually it may cut off like this. I'll take it out here. It is somewhat like this. Is it not? You are getting an idea in your mind? Yes, of course. And certain regions of this structure will have a kind of appearance over its surface which are nothing but axillary buds. And you know that axillary buds are the points. Axillary buds are the structure which arises at the point of nodal region. Yes, definitely, this is the node. This is the nodal point. And these axillary buds can give rise to roots. And this axillary bud can also give rise to shoot like this. And this axillary bud over this structure, we call that as an eye. And this entire structure a modified underground stem. as a tuber. It is tuber. What is it? Your answer is definitely correct. Your guessing is definitely correct. It is nothing but potato. So, same questions again. Name the vegetative propagule of potato. Tuber. Name the vegetative propagule of a potato. It's a tuber. Give example to the plant which reproduces through the tuber. Potato. Very simple. So, this is the second example, and the second underground stem modification as per the information of your textbook, content of your textbook. Let us go to the next example, students. Okay, the eye helps in vegetative reproduction. In case of a potato, let us go to another one example. You may be knowing this. In Kannada, we say that as a bedavre huvu. In English, chrysanthemum. In chrysanthemum, what happens? In chrysanthemum plant, this lateral branch will be much slender, not as much as in case of these examples. What I give, it's a slender like this. It will horizontally grow. After growing until certain distance, what happens? This slender, horizontally growing stem will turn toward the upper side like this, and it will produce leaves. And eventually it may cut off from its parental plant and it will make an independent plant. It will produce an independent plant. It's a asexual reproduction. This structure, we call this as a sucker. Example is chrysanthemum. Example is chrysanthemum. Or sometimes even mint and chrysanthemum. So the question runs in the very same way. Name the vegetative propagule in chrysanthemum and mint, sucker. Or name the plants or give example to those plants which reproduces through the sucker. That's chrysanthemum. Very simple. 1 marks questions in your textbook, and they can frame many a number of questions in your NEET examination. We will come to that. We are going to consider and make a discussion in detail. Okay? And we are there with you. And I'll take you next example. Next example, rhizome, tuber, sucker. Textbook examples are over. So here the next one is, I have to write a different diagram here. This is also an example which is very familiar for you. For this I will consider a stem here. This is stem. This is the nodal regions, many nodes of a stem. One node, second node, third node, fourth node, like this many nodes are there. And between the nodes there is a presence of the internodes. Just you assume a situation where the internodes are excessively reduced in their length. So, because of this excessive reduction in the internodal length, what may happen? The stem get condensed like this. Okay, you know that there will be you can expect the presence of axillary buds. You can expect the presence of leaves like this. Yes, of course, it's simply a diagrammatical depiction. That's it. And you assume the same thing happening here. I mean, same structures to be present here. And this structure is present inside the soil. Okay, this structure is present inside the soil. It is subterranean. It is not aerial. It is subterranean. Okay, there is a presence of axillary buds like this, and there is a presence of the apical bud also. So now the leaves which are supposed to be, which grows at the point of the node, here the leaves too will be there. And these leaves will store reserve food material. So because they are thick and fleshy, okay, and many leaves at each nodal region are formed. They are thick and fleshy, and one leaf covers over the another leaf. It is like this. Okay, and you can assume that here the stem is much condensed. I have made it bit more thicker to make you understand. It's much condensed. Okay, I think you are getting idea, students. Okay, you are assuming as what it is. Yes, your guessing is correct. This is nothing but onion. And what's the name of this? It's an underground modified stem with thick fleshy leaves with axillary buds and apical bud. This is nothing but bulb. What is it? Bulb. A bulb is an underground modified structure. Example for the bulb is onion. And yet another example is there for the bulb, that is garlic. Garlic. So question is similar type, akin to those type which I gave examples for first 3 modifications. Name the vegetative propagule of onion. Garlic. What is your answer? Bulb. Give example to the plant. Give example to the plant which reproduces with the help of the bulb. What is your answer? The onion, garlic. Okay, students. In this class, I have thoroughly discussed the information and examples which have been given in your textbook, and I think I have made you to understand as what it is. And in case if any doubt arises, we are there ready to clarify your doubts at any point of time, students. In my next class, I am going to take some more examples, the modifications of the vegetative parts helping in asexual reproduction. Okay, thank you all for listening to me. Thank you so much. Thank you again.